How well do you understand the situation? The world, bottom line, is a massively better place than it was 20 years ago or longer. And it's equally accurate to South Africa.
You know, Nabeel, it's the old fastest story. You'll always hear about the negative news first before the positive.
South Africa has a more jacked up system in financial services than the UK.
Well, it was quite ironic. We went there to go and learn, and we walked out there teaching them. And that's South Africans for you. I mean, we fighters. Okay, we don't lie down in the dirt and die. We fighters. I mean, if you look at HIV for argument's sake, I mean, for goodness sake, nowadays we actually sell life cover to people that have got HIV. But 15 years ago, you got the virus and that's it. You had a death sentence. Look how we've progressed. You've got a view. At the moment, now you should be buying. People, we sit in an office over the last week where people are phoning us saying, you know, should we sell? Should we get out? Are we down 10%, 15%? I'm saying, what you should be doing,
100%.
You should be going and getting that cash. If you haven't settle the debt first. But if that's done, give me surplus cash and let's go buy some stock for you. Because this is when the real profits get made. And we sit around a dinner table and that's all we find ourselves talking about. And it all amounts to zero. Let's do something different. Let's talk about the positive things out there. Because the reality is, Nabeel, is that you and I, civil society, have got a job to do. Mm-hmm. This government by its own right can't fix this country. It's effectively up to civil society, you and I. Yeah.
Money flowing in and out of your life, and we talk about this on the channel a lot, Greg, is the basic principles of personal finance.
Sure.
Right? And cash flow is completely, you'll be surprised. It's a misunderstood thing.
I think it starts off at home, very simply put. You need to sit back in the morning when you wake up and actually just say to yourself, what have I got? And be grateful for what you've got. And I mean, from simply getting up, putting your slippers on to go to make that cup of coffee, making breakfast, waking the kids up, you've got a roof over your head, you've got the pool going outside or whatever the case might be, you've got food on the table. We need to start understanding what we've got versus what other people haven't got. And we need to be more appreciative on that. Once we acknowledge that, we can then build on that going forward.
And like that to every single South African out there, guys, you can write your own story. You know, it is always about perspective, and it is actually easier done than just said.
And that's the positive spin that I wish the media would bring to the people out there. But instead, they'll obviously bring the negative.
Hey guys, welcome back to Money Talks, and today is an episode where we're only going to be talking about the positive things going in South Africa and the world. And in studio we have today a dear friend, a mentor, an extremely qualified, exceptional, amazing human being in finance, runs one of the biggest practices, involved over many sectors in the industry, but most importantly, exactly that, a true friend, Greg Sansom. He just hit a hole-in-one last week. So we have also two members of the Hole-in-One Club, and we're just going to tell you why you should be a proud South African. Greg, there's a specific message you wanted to say here.
I think what's important, Nabeel, we had breakfast about 2 weeks ago at Standard Bank, and we walked into this boardroom, and everyone was talking about coronavirus and the markets and all the rest of it, and we just sort of got there and our shoulders just went down. And we said, if there's anything today we're not going to talk about is the coronavirus and the markets, because there's so much literacy and social media out there with regards to it. Everybody's so well skilled in it. Let's talk about something different. And we did. And we had a fantastic meeting at Standard Bank, and all we did was speak about all the good stuff. And afterwards, you and I were walking out and said, well, why don't we do a video about this? I mean, why should we have just enjoyed ourselves as much as we've enjoyed ourselves in a meeting forever? Let's put it out there. Let everybody feel what we're feeling. And I think that's the message that we're going to get across today, is that the two things we're not going to talk about today is coronavirus and the market. Okay? All we can talk about is the good things that are happening out there. And I think it's important that people change the way that they think, stop talking negative, and let's just start a hashtag positive talk. It's that simple. Let's keep it simple.
100%. And in light of keeping it simple, right, Greg? Guys, we're doing this video for you so that you can find the reason to stay positive. So we're not going to say just be positive over here, because let's unpack it, right? Pessimism about the future is related to a misunderstanding of the objective evidence about the world. Yusuf, just check on the shelf over there. There's an orange book. Just pass it to me. Guys, you just got to, if you haven't read this book, FACTFULNESS by Hans Rosling. You've read it.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a couple of questions in here, and it's based on pure data of the world from years ago. What is this? It's a long time. But guys, I'll leave a link to the description in the bio on this book. But the whole concept around the first chapter is they ask a series of questions about the world today. And Hans Rosling has passed away.
Sure.
Hell, Bill Gates got a lot of them wrong. And he's stated that he's motivated the forward of that book to say, it's interesting how leaders, and remember, this applies to every single one of you because you are leaders of your own lives. And every little piece of information that flows through your mind, the long story short, check out that book later and we'll take it through that, is misunderstanding of the objective evidence about the world.
Sure.
And this is where it's all born. People are pulling stats out there. You don't use that word, but how well do you understand the situation? The world, bottom line, is a massively better place than it was 20 years ago or longer. And it's equally accurate to South Africa. Greg, what do you think about that?
You know, Nabeel, it's the old fastest story. You'll always hear about the negative news first before the positive. It's a common stat that good news takes 7 times longer to travel around the world than bad. You know, it's unfortunately in human nature, and I think this is the message we want to get across to the people today, is that we all know the bad stuff. We all know the Escoms, we all know the wills, we all know about the coronavirus and so on and so forth, and the crime, and the current account GDP deficit. You know,
what's the positive? Like, let's look at South Africa today.
And we all know this because it gets shoved into our face every single day of our lives. And we sit around a dinner table, and that's all we find ourselves talking about, and it all amounts to zero. You walk out there and you feel more doom and gloom than ever before. So today, what we're going to do is say, well, let's buck the trend. Let's do something different. Let's talk about the positive things out there. Because the reality is, Nabeel, is that you and I, civil society, have got a job to do. Mm-hmm. This government by its own right can't fix this country. It's effectively up to civil society, you and I.
It's our country.
100%. We've got to in turn start doing the small things that count. We've got to start loving our fellow human being again, instead of hating them and trying to put them down. We've got to ask ourselves the question, and you need to ask yourself the same question: what are you doing for civil society? What are you doing for your community? And I mean, today you and I are going to give 1 or 2 simple examples, because it's pointless saying, well, what are you doing for your community with no idea? We're going to give the viewers an idea and say, small things, this is what I think you should do.
But you know where it starts, right? It starts in the passion of how you approach your day.
Sure.
If you really want to take it down that when you wake up, you
make your bed.
Make your bed. Then, I mean, that comes from the army experience and so on. But I mean, anyone can actually do this. You wake up, and there's a few influencers that say this. This one guy, how do you stay positive all the time? He wakes up and says, I sit there for a minute, I imagine, think about how crazy this is. I imagine that everyone I love, my kids, my family, and all of that have died. And I think, man, that'll be cuck. And then he goes, but they're alive. And boom, the guy has energy and takes it through his days. It's Gary Vee, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hear exactly that particular point. And again, our fellow human beings must understand, we've got a lot to be grateful in South Africa.
100%.
I mean, we're just looking outside the window, we see cars buzzing around, we see people operating in their businesses, and we forget that in some parts of the world, this is not the norm. No. South Africans, in all due respect, are so spoilt. Yes, we've got our problems, don't even talk about that, but there is a lot of good. And the only way we can expand on that goodness is about if we talk about it more.
Got one of the most
we got to talk it up.
Countries in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're in Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
On that La Rambla street, I walk here with my lighty. Yeah. Terror attack.
Yeah.
I mean, for Pete's sake.
All the way there.
And you and I travel often around the world, Greg. I don't know what. I'd like to hear your take, but 2 weeks is maximum. Then I miss this place. Well, I miss it. And I come back. It's like a holiday for me.
I think it's a common denominator and a common factor with everybody that is South Africans, or that is South African. I mean, when we landed at Tambo, we're actually happy to be home, you know, believe it or not. And this place is home. It feels like our blankie. This is where we belong. And this is why, Nabeel, we have to get the message across to people out there. Let's start talking positive. And that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to talk about the good stuff.
Here's one positive thing.
Yeah.
Financial services in South Africa. And we know with the industry changes and investment space and moving to a more consumer-driven environment around sales of financial products. And we actually went to research in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And from the words of the UK, guys, South Africa has a more jacked up system in financial services than the UK.
Well, it was quite ironic. We went there to go and learn, and we walked out there teaching them, and we sort of sat back and said, hang on a second, we came across here to try and get new ideas, but our ideas are, we're on point here with
100%.
these things. Yeah.
And I mean, Greg, what's your take on the indicators of our economy? Look, they're all tanking, but this is all undervalued, right?
Sure. I mean, we sat with one or two of our clients this week, and we've always been of the opinion that, don't pay off things like cars, assets effectively, that you're not going to reach those values again. They're depreciating assets. But I then had a look at it from a different angle, and unfortunately with the market now not yielding the numbers that it's yielding, if you're sitting with cash at the moment now, not cash in your pension fund, I'm talking about cash in a bank, money market, whatever the case is, go and settle the debt, okay? And by settling that debt, you're going to be a better person. Your cash in money market, go settle the debt. Whatever that debt was costing you, then take that money and bulk up your RA or bulk up your 5-year endowment.
So basically, you've settled your debt.
100%.
And you've unlocked cash flow in your life, right?
Yeah.
Money flowing in and out of your life, and we talk about this on the channel a lot, Greg, is the basic principles of personal finance.
Sure.
Right? And cash flow is completely, you'll be surprised. It's a misunderstood thing. And lifestyle inflation and all of those things. So what Greg is saying is, settle that debt, because in the current tough times, and we know the positive of any tough time is huge profits that people make if you start thinking more positively and acting with purpose. So settle that debt and unlock cash flow and use that extra money where you have control in your life to dictate that money. You're not paying the bank or anything like that. Well, and you can then further invest it and buy shares that are cheap, right?
Well, you got to understand one thing. I mean, cash in the bank at the moment now, yielding you, call it 7 to 8%. If you look at what effectively your home loan or your finance arrangement with your motor vehicles costing, it's a hell of a lot more. So it doesn't make sense having the cash in the bank. Go and settle those debts. Get rid of it. But more to the point, Nabeel, you feel better. You walk out in the morning, you don't have this noose around your neck. Yeah. You take that money that you were paying into that car or into that bond, for argument's sake, you then give it to a financial planner, and he then goes and puts together a financial plan. Buying stocks at the moment now at these levels, I mean, we've gone back so far and so hard, you'd be a fool not to be getting into the market at this particular stage. Granted, but you need a view, because we still got issues here in South 100%. Africa. But we're so confident we're going to fix these issues. This is a good thing. We're buying this stuff now with the view that it is going to turn, and we're going to help make it turn for the future of you and I and for our kids.
100%. And I mean, it's a common problem. We talk about South Africa having a low economy, but in comparison to the world and in comparison to developing markets, we've got an excellent system running here.
We're liquid.
We're liquid. Private is amazing. There's conversations if we talk about corruption. Now, I mean, I'd like to deal with that negative topic, because actually we're sitting in the bottom half of corrupt countries or governments in the world. And there was that recent scam where the New Zealander and so on scammed R1 trillion worth of stuff from Germany. That's a current issue.
You know the funny thing about South Africans at the moment, because of the past that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years, where they've literally bankrupted this country and taken the money and used it for all kinds of things, is most South Africans nowadays will not take a dime that they know is not clean, because it doesn't talk to, they don't want to go back to where we were. Nobody will take money and say, give me the money, I'm going to use it, I'm going to spend it because of their own personal gain. They'll take funds and use only good quality, clean funds, because that's what we're trying to build.
Let's look at what Tito said, right? And Cyril and the outlook. Everything's on transparency. Like, people are making jokes of it right now, in the sense that a flying economy or whatever it might be. These are real steps. When in history have you seen our government actually say stuff like this?
Well, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the stuff that's coming out of the government at the moment now. Yes, they're slow. Implementation is a problem. But here's the thing. We've got lifestyle audits happening at all the top execs at Eskom. Okay, we've got salaries for all the state-owned enterprises in terms of the CEOs, where they're saying, that's it, we're capping it, no salary increases, guys. So this country is now starting to operate like a business, not just this free-for-all bottomless pot that everybody can get their hands into. there's not much left in the pot, so there's not a lot to take
Nothing
out.
negative, Greg.
100%.
There's
But the
plenty
point
of
of the issue is we can fill the pot because we had the pot full at one particular stage. Okay. In actual fact, now what we've learnt, please God, we don't let happen again. And it's up to, again, civil society that when an individual wants to do a dodgy deal, to walk away and say, I'm not entertaining this kind of nonsense. Okay? Because that's the reason for that. That is the reason we're in the situation at the moment. And I think civil society out there's had enough. They've really had enough.
Yeah, and with more positivity, firstly, there is the stat that more positivity in the economy and in the country actually has a direct relation to growth.
Sure,
right?
sure.
I mean, confidence really is kind of low, but guys need to just cheer up here because in light of what you said, I mean, there's positive to ESCOM, right? There's
It's positive to everything. It depends on how you look at it.
So what would you say the positive towards ESCOM is?
Well, the great thing is that we're actually going to do this environment and the world a great favor. I mean, again, the government's come out and said we're going to go ahead and approve these licenses now to allow renewable energy to put electricity back into the grid. Mm-hmm. And I think this is fantastic. You know, it starts to spur our entrepreneurial spirits again.
There's a big budget allocated to entrepreneurs,
100%.
right?
But let's say Eskom do fix their nonsense in 3 years or 4 years. By the time they eventually come to the party, we're going to say, guys, guess what? We're good. We fixed this problem. And that's South Africans. You understand? They're so resilient. They get given this massive problem. You're at dinner, you're having dinner, food's in the oven and the lights go off. Well, it's not a problem. You know what? Generators go on and we move on. That's what we do.
And you know the beauty of financial awareness, financial literacy, financial education, and spin some positivity in that. And you guys should be getting very creative. I mean, how many messages I got yesterday with guys ready to buy oil?
You see, that's South Africans. But you got to love the South Africans as well, from an entrepreneurial perspective as well. Yeah. There's no hand sanitizer out there. So this morning on the radio, I'm coming to work and I'm listening to the radio, and the guy says, well, guess what? Why don't we make our own hand sanitizer? So they phoned into Discom, and Discom gave them the formulation, and they went and bought the alcohol and the different types of soaps, put it together, and they made hand sanitizer. So that's it. We've got our own hand sanitizer. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. We take this negative situation and a new idea has been born. You know, that's what's out there, Nabeel, is South Africans, we can do it. But we've got to focus on that kind of stuff. We do it, we don't even harp on it, but we'll talk about the negative stuff, but not that.
So this message now, I want to actually talk to financial professionals out there, guys that are commenting on the news, right? Because I mean, I heard a comment, a segment on 702 the other day. We don't talk about this virus on this episode, but I mean, they were talking about that and its effect. And wait, they're actually talking about prescribed assets. Okay. Right? Prescribed assets, basically that's when the government wants to tap into. It's not a virus, Greg. Positivity. Because there's actually a solution to it. So I'm going to tell you about the 702 thing right now. But if you think about the nature of tapping into pension funds to bail out ESCOM. Sure. Right? Think about it logically. And the statement from Tito to say tap into all private. Right? So all pension money, not just government pension. That number, hypothetically, let's say it's 4 trillion rand worth. Right? And they need 250, 260 to bail out ESCOM. Sure. Right? If you do the math, 260 divided by 4 trillion, 6%. And if you look at the standard money market fund doing 6%, and by the time they started talking about it, all pensions, by nature, I mean, how hard is it to pull out that 6%? You've got a year, you've got the money to fund the solution. We're not talking about the negative out of this, but look at the effect that it's having in the mindset of the consumer.
Well, it's just, you know, what comes out of the market is the government are attacking our pensions. No. And I think what the viewers need to understand is that, you know, most portfolio managers have already been buying prescribed assets for forever. In fact, they have to. I mean, it's one of the mandates. The big thing is now is the government saying instead of buying, let's call it 0.1 or 0.2 prescribed assets, we'd like you to in turn buy a little bit more. And that's where this message needs to come across. They're not going to attack your pensions. They're asking them to possibly buy a bit more in terms of government bonds.
I was about to say, it's like a bond.
And is it a bad thing? I mean, yeah, granted, and people say, government bond, you're mad. I wouldn't touch an Eskom bond. I wouldn't touch any other bond. But it's all backed by Treasury. Okay, so we need to understand that. These pension fund and portfolio managers would never put their clients at risk because effectively the Pension Fund Act, it looks after the clients. and our constitution looks after the clients so well.
So I'm going to tell you with regards to negativity, right? On that show, they chatted about this scenario, right? And the expert there was saying, he said his message, it was a good thing, and ended off with an opinion.
Yep.
And the opinion was, but government can't be trusted to do anything. I mean, in my opinion, that is a negative statement.
Yeah.
So you end off educating,
Well, government's going
getting
to do
perspective.
that. Yeah.
But if you're voicing this from your opinion, like strongly as if you're at the dinner table, what's the point in going national radio? We're trying to raise the levels of positivity and confidence here through understanding.
Sure.
It's a pointless thing. And this comes back to human nature, financial behavior. And people see the world based on their individually crafted representation. And we know this. Human beings don't see it as it is. It's based on how we put on these goggles. We see it in personal finance. We see it in relationships. We see it. And we are all not perfect. And this then just highlights the importance of positivity.
Yep.
As soon as you put that lens on, all of a sudden, opportunities. So, for example, like Greg.
Okay. You know, Nabeel, again, let's go back to the positive spin, and I want to go back to the community, because, I mean, there's such an important role that we have to play from the community's perspective. Civil society needs to step up to the plate. Okay, government, again, as we said.
How can they do that?
Let me explain to you. Simple example, because it's a classic. You say, step up to the plate. Here's an example. You got a beggar at the side of the road. Goodness, there's beggars on every single side of the road. I stopped 2 weeks ago. This guy's been there forever. I pulled him aside, and I sat and I listened to him. Okay, and he told me his story. I'm not going to get into it. It's a long story. Half it's probably not true. And I said, okay, so you want me to give you some money? He says, yeah, please, if you don't mind. So I tell you what, keep this intersection clean. Okay, and if I come past you, which I come past you at least once a day, I'll reward you. And he looked at me and thought, well, okay, not a bad idea. And there were weeds, and the dustbin was overflowing and all kind of. Next day I brought him some dustbin bags. The intersection where he's at the moment now is the cleanest intersection that I've seen. Now, that's empowering. Are you with me? That's empowering. He's even looking better because he's not begging anymore. He's got a little sign that says, I keep this intersection clean. And I promise you, Nabeel, it is clean. Somebody dropped off some flowers the other day, some little seedlings. He's gone and planted it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, this is fantastic. Our fellow South African. To the point, that's what we've got to do, is we've got to take this problem and help. We've got to educate. Okay, instead of talking about it, let's help these individuals. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is ask yourself the question, what have you done for your community? Something small like that makes a massive difference.
So Greg, I mean, there's simple things that you can do to be positive, right? I mean,
Sure.
There's obviously the mindset, which is everything.
Yep.
You have to just look at everything from assess the facts, go back to that book, and find the data before you jump to listening to all the negativity that
all the naysayers. I'm tired of them. I mean,
we're going to Zimbabwe. What a random piece of crap. It's not true, and I can prove that. But I want to go through to what you can physically do, because this is a whole nother video in why we're not actually going down that route. But what else would you say?
I think it starts off at home, very simply put. You need to sit back in the morning when you wake up and actually just say to yourself, what have I got? And be grateful for what you've got. And I mean, from simply getting up, putting your slippers on to go to make that cup of coffee, making breakfast, waking the kids up, you've got a roof over your head, you've got the pool going outside, or whatever the case might be, you've got food on the table. We need to start understanding what we've got versus what other people haven't got. And we need to be more appreciative on that. Once we acknowledge that, we can then build on that going forward. I mean, most South Africans out there, again, I reiterate, I believe are spoiled. I mean, the stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis and the lives that we lead, nowhere in the world can we do this. It's a common fact. The type of houses we live in compared to the rest of the world. You know, we're prepared to now go give this all up and immigrate and leave the country. For what? Why don't we stay and fix it? But again, it's up to us. The small things that count. Just be appreciative for what you've got. Start at the basics, start at home, and build on that going forward. And you know what, Nabeel? You've got to start loving your fellow human being. This hate nonsense that's out there, you know, people wanting to do deals to spite other people. But I see a lot of anger. There's so much anger out there, and there's reason to be angry. And I'm saying, you know what? We're angry enough. Let's just be a bit happier. Because if you're happy, you're going to put a smile on your face, like you've just done now. And guess what? You're going to have positive thoughts. And this is what I want to try and get out there to the people is, let's just be a happier nation. We've got so much to be thankful for. Let's appreciate it.
You're 100%. access to facilities, facilities. However, there's so much you can take out of a positive environment with no screen time. I mean, Greg, there's also even the positivity of the opportunity of market. I mean, it's just be optimistic about it.
Well, I mean, it's a classic case now where the markets are at the moment now. I mean, if you've got an outlook, if you've got a view, at the moment now you should be buying. People, we sit in an office over the last week where people are phoning us saying, should we sell? Should we get out? Are we down 10%, 15%? I'm saying, what you should be doing,
100%.
You should be going and getting that cash. If you haven't settle the debt first. But if that's done, give me surplus cash and let's go buy some stock for you. Because this is when the real profits get made. Nabeel, I had a great quote today that came in from somebody from JP Morgan, and it went something like this. It said, adversity is not new to people in financial markets. History tells us that we'll always rise to this, okay? And guess what? We'll sort out these challenges. I believe this time is no different. We'll fix it. We'll figure it out. And before we know it, it'll be a blip in the whole scheme of things.
I mean, 2001, there was a whole lot of economic factors, but one of them was also around disease.
Sure.
Right? And the pandemic of AIDS, right? And everyone thought it was. So, I mean, we can learn from the research and hindsight of the behavior of negativity and how we can always recover. We face so many things as not only South Africans, as human beings, this planet Earth. We're resilient. I mean, I almost used a bad word there, but it's true.
Exactly that. And that's South Africans for you. I mean, we fighters. Okay, we don't lie down in the dirt and die. We fighters. I mean, if you look at HIV for argument's sake, I mean, for goodness sake, nowadays we actually sell life cover to people that have got HIV. But 15 years ago, you got the virus and that's it. You had a death sentence. Look how we've progressed. Not to talk about coronavirus, but I believe after corona's come and gone, we're going to be better individuals too.
No, of course, better procedures, better systems, better everything.
We're going to have cleaner hands to start off with. We're all going to sanitize. We're going to wash our hands a lot more, So we're going to be better people for this. And sometimes people would say it's a good thing. I mean, we're not going to discuss if it's a good or bad thing from that element because unfortunately there's always death involved. But I think as a human race, we are going to be in a better space going forward. And that's the positive spin that I wish the media would bring to the people out there. But instead, they'll obviously bring the negative. I mean, it's the same as the people that are recovering from corona at the moment.
This is why we're making this video.
Yeah.
So how positive is it that 20, 15 years ago, there wasn't this. We couldn't set up an entire studio, make a beautifully looking piece of production over here talking about the positivity. And no one's telling us don't write that story. And based on that, South Africans and Africans actually by nature of circumstance of life over the last, one of the few remaining continents, if not the last remaining continent, that is positioned for huge, massive growth over the next couple of years with an amazing population that's diversely aged. I mean, we don't have top-heavy like the modern-day economies of working force that's going out. There's all this thinking opportunities coming from us. And I think from the youngsters, all the way through whoever's got that drive, that energy, those ideas. It starts with positivity and push through, and it's never been a better time to start solving those problems of the world.
Well, the good news is that those youngsters don't carry the history. Okay, they walk into this problem at the moment facing on almost a clean sheet, a clean slate, and say, how can we solve this problem? They haven't got the history to deal with because they're not interested in that. They've been presented with a problem, they're educated, they're looking at the world as a whole new place and saying, how can I make it better? And these are the problems we've got, where are the solutions? In all due respect, you and I both carry too much baggage to try and sort these problems out because we always want to go back to the past. That's in the past, that's gone. The youth today, this is their job. They've got to step up to the plate and help us, you and me, fix this problem.
Greg, I'm so happy that you see me in light of a mature elderly man.
That you are.
And the only thing really standing in the way of the youth of today is that older generation, uncles, parents who have carried that baggage. Just don't put those thoughts into the youngsters.
Don't confuse them.
It's pointless.
Yeah.
Don't even push them like, I get it, great. Sending the skills offshore.
It's tough. They need to stay local and express themselves. They're they're in a country that needs them. They've got to stand up to the plate too and help us fix this place, because we're doing it for them, Nabeel, in all due respect. We need to make sure that they can sustain themselves going forward. And again, it starts off at home. It's about not talking about the negative stuff at home, but only talking about the good.
And the opportunities, because...
And the opportunities are massive. Why? Because we've got all these problems. It's that simple. Massive problems, massive opportunities. Focus on the good stuff. Let's solve these problems and let's work through these opportunities.
Exciting, isn't that?
Sure,
Well,
of course it is.
it's
Not boring.
exciting for me.
It's not boring.
Yeah.
Not boring. I mean, South Africa's never been boring.
I'll tell you how exciting it is doing this channel. Solving financial literacy. You know, it's just,
Solving
Guys,
financial problems.
always enjoy putting out this content to you guys. Hashtag stay
Positive thinking.
And like that to every single South African out there. Guys, you can write your own story. You know, it is always about perspective, and it is actually easier done than just said, or equally, let's put it that way. But positivity is it starts with gratitude, and it sticks with what you choose to do next in the way you approach your day, and every other day thereafter. Make a difference in someone's life. Look at somebody and listen to them with an actual aim to listen. We're so busy these days. Take every opportunity to listen, to ask, to help, to offer, to love, to take account of your thoughts. Just the very exercise of trying to be positive is healthy in itself. And if every single South African takes just that practice, the intention away from this, Greg, I think we would make an incredible difference. And that's really the point of this video. We actually
Hashtag positive thinking.
Hashtag positive thinking.
Let's keep it that way. You know, Nabeel, you and I had the conversation at breakfast. We walked out there. We were stoked. We were up market. We were on cloud nine. We had an hour meeting and we felt great afterwards. We never spoke about those two things we haven't spoken about today. We've touched them. We haven't spoken about them. But what we've done is we said, let's just be happy again. Let's thank whoever you believe in for the small things that we've got. Our family. That we've got food on the table, that we've got a bit of electricity, you know, that we can go to work in most cases. But more to the point is that we've got the ability to empower those that don't. And again, to get back to that issue, it's up to you and me to go out there and make a difference to those that don't have anything and help them. Don't give them money, show them a skill, a simple skill, and put them back into society. That's how collectively we're going to fix this country, I believe.
100%, guys. And on that note, thanks for watching. Remember, this channel here is here to empower a nation to live life on their own terms. Go check out Greg's quarterly market update on his YouTube channel from the Desk of Greg Sansom. Hit that subscribe button, click on that bell icon so you never miss a video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.